Hello everyone, it's time for another Hearthstone Journey to Un'Goro deck tech, and in this video I'm going to take a look at Jade Elemental Shaman. So I've already discussed a pure Elemental Shaman in a previous video, but now I want to take a look at what if you add the Jade package in it. And running the Jade package in Elemental Shaman is the most popular option right now. Because basically you're running 5 really busted cards. You're running 2 copies of Jade Claws, you're running 2 copies of Jade Lightning, and you're running one of the best legendary minions, Aya Blackpaw. So that gives your deck more early game in the form of Jade Claws, more direct damage in the form of Jade Lightning, and of course Aya, which is like Aya. Ha. Running the Jade package comes at a cost. You now have fewer elementals in the deck because you're cutting 5 slots for the Jade package, and that brings its own challenges. But without further ado, here is the list that I have been running with as Jade Elemental Shaman as of late. This list has the same game plan as my pure Elemental Shaman list, so this is a token based approach with Bloodlust as one of the potential finishers. You can also go for a more on-curve list, but there are some things that make the token approach even better in Jade Elemental Shaman than pure build. And one of the main things is Igneous Elemental. Igneous Elemental is sometimes a little awkward to run in a pure Elemental Shaman build, but it can be a key piece in making Jade Elemental Shaman work, because Igneous Elemental gives you more elemental activators, so even though you have cut some slots to fit in those Jade cards, you still have these cheap activators in hand, which allow you to activate your elemental synergies when needed. Inclusion of Jade Claws gives you another really good early game card, and that can really help you control the board early on. And this also means that compared to the pure Elemental Shaman build that I introduced last time, the area of effect damage package is a little bit smaller. In this list it only consists of 2 Maelstrom portals and 1 copy of Lightning Storm. So 1 Lightning Storm has been cut because the early game is already a little bit stronger. The list still features the token package: Firefly, Igneous Elemental, Stone Sentinel, supported by Flametongue Totem and Bloodlust. Because you also have fairly powerful minions, you have Aya, you have those big elementals, you have direct damage. Bloodlust is not the only finisher in the deck, so running 1 copy is enough in this type of deck, I feel. This particular list runs the same card draw and resource generation package as I run in the pure Elemental Shaman build. So there's Bloodmage Talnos, which makes your Maelstrom portals a little bit better and gives you cards. There's Mana Type Totem for some additional card draw, and then there's perhaps the best elemental of them all, Servant of Kalimos. An immensely good card. It can discover an elemental, so it has a good chance to discover Shaman class elementals like Earth Elemental, Stone Sentinel, Alakir, some really powerful stuff there. And it can even discover itself, so sometimes you're able to chain Servants of Kalimos, play Servant of Kalimos into Servant of Kalimos into Alakir, or something pretty powerful stuff. There are 2 resource generation cards that I have not chosen to include in this list, but that could be really interesting with the Jade package. First there's Spirit Echo. Spirit Echo is a shaman spell that gives your minions a death rattle to return them back to your hand. So returning like Aya back into your hand and getting another 2 Jade Golems, that can be pretty strong. Spirit Echo has actually even seen play in pure Jade Shaman builds as of late, so builds that don't run the elementals at all, because Spirit Echo allows the shaman to scale their Jade Golems to be bigger. And another option is the Stonehill Defender, 3 mana 1/4 taunt that lets you discover a taunt like, say, Earth Elemental or an Alakir. And Stonehill Defender can perhaps be easier to fit into a Jade Elemental Shaman than pure Elemental Shaman, because you have no synergy card on 4 anyway, at least in this list. There's no room for Tolvir Stone Shaper. Overall I feel like in Jade, if you're running the Jade package, you want to cut as many of the synergy cards as possible, especially ones that are not elementals themselves, because your elemental chain will be interrupted periodically. So that means that Stonehill Defender can also find more of a home here, because breaking that chain right there does not feel as bad as it does when you're running a pure build. The matchups for Jade Elemental Shaman overall are fairly similar to those of a pure Elemental Shaman. Against the Pirate Warrior you don't have quite the same number of taunts and roadblocks on their way, but on the other hand you have Jade Claws as an additional drop for the early game in addition to Firefly and Maelstrom Portal, and then Jade Lightning is a very effective guard to deal with the Frothing Berserker, for example. They drop a Frothing on 3, you Jade Elemental that on 4. Excellent. So it's a little bit different. I actually think that I prefer the pure Elemental Shaman in the Pirate Warrior matchup, but the Jade Elemental Shaman can definitely do some tricks as well. Taunt Warrior matchup is also similar. It remains an unfavored matchup, although with the power of Jades you have some power to keep pushing, because you need to be the aggressor, you need to deal damage. You need to get them low and then finish them off with direct damage, maybe even after they have completed their quest. Typically against a Shaman you have multiple turns after the Taunt Warrior completes his quest to kill him off. But whether you're able to do that or not depends on how low you have been able to get them by that point, because that hero power is going to tick down your board. You will not be able to build a big board after that. And obviously there's always the risk of them brawling into hero power, which is a board clear. So you will have a very hard time keeping a board after that point. Same tips apply as with pure Elemental Shaman build. You want to use Hex for tempo, you want to Hex like a Diehorn Hatchling, or you want to Hex an Alia Armorsmith. Just get them out of the way so that you can push for more damage. And once you get to your Kalimos turn, Kalimos is most likely going to be 6 damage to face in this matchup. You really need to push that damage to face, because once the warrior goes with Sulfuras, they have very limited healing available. Basically only shield block, if even that. Quest Rogue is another unfavored matchup, and you really need to look for the early game here. Firefly, Jade Claws, Maelstrom Portal. Try to push face damage so that you will be able to burst them down around the time when they complete the quest. And the Jade Elemental Shaman is a little bit better here because you have Jade Claws, so you have a little bit more early game in form of that, and you also have Jade Lightning, so you have a little bit more direct damage available. So the chances to burst down the quest rogue with the Jade Elemental Shaman are a bit higher than with the regular one. Mid-range Hunter is another favored matchup. You're looking for the early game, and you have one more option than the pure Elemental Shaman build, because you have Firefly, you have Jade Claws, and you have Maelstrom Portal. And again, Maelstrom Portal, even on a single 1-drop on the board of the Hunter on 2, or on 1 if you're on the coin, is perfectly acceptable. You really want to deny them getting that Crackling Razormaw value right at the start of the game. With Jade Elemental Shaman you also have the luxury of playing Jade Claws. So they play a minion, you can play Jade Claws, you can remove that minion, still have a 1-1 on the board and a weapon charge left, so you're a little bit better at contesting them early on. On the other hand, you're missing one copy of Lightning Storm from this list, but this matchup is fairly much the same whether you're playing a pure build or whether you're playing Jade Elemental Shaman. The mid-range Paladin matchup is very much the same as well. It's a fairly even matchup, it's a very value-based matchup. The Paladin is going to want to drop their Hydrologist early, they are probably going to pick a Getaway Kodo from that, then they are trying to set up a situation where they get to Getaway Kodo a Tyrion or something, but the regular Shaman tools work here. You can either use Hex, so you Hex something and kill that one, and okay, they get the Frog back, or you can use one of the many options for Battle Cries and direct damage, and just kill something from behind their Tyrion, for example, and return them with a Silverhand Recruit instead of Tyrion. It's crucial to note in this matchup that thanks to Stonehill Defenders, Paladin is very likely to be able to pick up more of their class taunts, including Tyrion, and they're also running Spike-Ridge Steed. So overall the Paladin is going to have more good Hex targets than you have Hexes in the deck. So you need to be careful about that and decide, okay, if they have these and those kinds of threats, then do I have a hand that can handle which of them most effectively and which ones do I want to Hex? Finally, Paladin also runs Sunkeeper Tarim, so at any time when you have a decent board, it's possible that the Sunkeeper will arrive and make them all 3 trees. Especially sad when you have like Fire Elemental, Blaze Caller, you have some big Jades on the board. Well, not anymore. Overall, the Jade Elemental Shaman strengthens the early game of Pure Elemental Shaman, and it still also achieves late game power because it still has these powerful elemental synergy minions and it also has Jades. However, it does so at the cost of some consistency with activating the elemental synergies, as well as losing some of its defensiveness. The Jade Elemental Shaman by nature is a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more proactive deck than the Pure Elemental Shaman. That fact can actually be an advantage, for example, in the current meta. So Jade Elemental Shaman is definitely a strong contender. It's perhaps also worth noting that because the Jade package takes 5 card slots from the deck is a little bit more difficult to tech for different types of metas. On the other hand, you could say that this is actually an advantage of the Jade Elemental Shaman. It's more consistent in its base form. It doesn't have to be teched as carefully for whatever opposition you're facing. It's just a stronger core overall. I think both options have their positives. I have really enjoyed playing the Pure Elemental Shaman build. I've also enjoyed playing the Jade Elemental Shaman build. So I encourage you to try out both and see what you like. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.